I am unhinged today. Hi guys and welcome to my channel where I read for you stories from Reddit, and today's episode is gonna be about exes, and all of the stories I have for you today are from the Am I the Asshole subreddit, my favorite, and I figured since it's the topic that is relatable for most of the adult human beings out there, it's gonna be fun to dive into that. For me, it's mostly gonna be blind reactions today because I don't really remember most of the stories that I saved for today. So without further ado, let's dive in. Am I the asshole for learning my ex's language? I, 25 female, have been dating my boyfriend, male 26, for about 2 years. Prior to us meeting, I had been in a 5-year relationship with my ex. My ex came from another country on another continent, so his native language and his culture were extremely different from mine. Me and my ex came from a non-English speaking country, and I rapidly started learning his mother tongue, picked up a lot of his culture, food, manners, etc. I traveled to his country about 5 times and lived there for 3 years as well. So when we broke up and I went back to my country, I spoke the language fluently and had picked up the culture. For example, I would mostly cook food from my ex's country as it was really good and I got used to it. Anyway, I met my current boyfriend. He comes from a different country as well, but he grew up learning and speaking English at home. He also speaks another language with his family. When I met him, I forced myself to stop using the culture of my ex, as my boyfriend didn't like the food and found a lot of other things weird. It just looks like he's a bit jealous of your ex, not that things are weird. At the same time, I got busy and stopped practicing the language I had spent nearly 4 years learning. Long story short, I recently realized that I couldn't speak the language fluently anymore and freaked out because I spent lots of time, money, and efforts into it. So I decided to start learning the language again, and at the same time, I started living the way I used to live prior to meeting my boyfriend again. AKA, I have started cooking old dishes, watch a lot of movies from my ex's country, etc. I feel like I'm reconnecting after a long time. Well, multiple times my boyfriend said this is disturbing to him and asked if my plan was to get back with my ex. Some people are just confusing so many things, and okay. He said that's the only reason I'm probably learning the language again and picking up the culture again. The only one, because there is no possibility, 0% chance that she actually likes that language, right? He said that because it's not my own culture, I'm being really weird and a bit of an asshole for using another culture. That sounds like a convenient accusation to make when you're being just a little bit unreasonable. He also mentioned the fact that I haven't started learning his own language. The reason why I haven't is because first, there aren't many resources on it. Second, his family, and everyone around him speak fluent English. And third, I have told myself that I would learn it if I get married to him. He is really pissed at me, and no matter how many times I try to explain that the only reason I'm learning the language again and using the culture is because I spent nearly 4 years of my life experiencing this culture, and not only did I get used to it, I also enjoyed it a lot. I am torn as I can understand my boyfriend's point of view, but at the same time, I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. Edit. Forgot to add that while I haven't started learning my boyfriend's language, I have learned a lot about his own culture and been cooking traditional dishes for him pretty often. On his side, he has neither learned my mother tongue nor my culture, so I also don't feel like he's being fair either. Hypocrisy going on. Edit 2. Thanks everyone who commented. I realized that I'm not crazy and I will have a talk with my boyfriend. To answer a few questions, I started learning the language a few months before meeting my ex. It was a dream I had as a kid to learn this language. I just happened to meet my ex and he helped me a lot with becoming fluent and being exposed to the culture. Not disclosing the languages, but as I mentioned in a comment, my mother tongue is a European language, my ex language is Chinese. Oh wow, I don't even know where to start. So I was considering getting on a side of a boyfriend a little bit. I'm not saying he's not an asshole. He obviously is. I was just thinking that maybe I could be more understanding because, yeah, if she's been in a very long-term relationship before him and now she's learning the ex's language again and not his, I can see how he might get jealous. But when she mentions that she actually started learning the language even before she met her ex, it just erases everything for me because I don't care at this point. I mean, she didn't learn that language for a boy. She wanted it since she was a kid, and for her, it's super interesting. And as she says, she's very into the culture, the food, the language. So it's kind of like a part of her, regardless of whether or not she was dating that guy. So for her boyfriend now, it seems like just a very clear-cut case of jealousy. It's also supported by the fact that he's being hypocritical about it because he's not learning her language but demands that she learns his and stops learning her ex's language. I just find the whole situation ridiculous, and I think it's not about the language, it's just about his feelings that he cannot maybe process. Maybe there is something else going on. Well, it depends on the way they broke up, the way she met her new boyfriend, and the way he thinks about her past relationship. But overall, I think this boy needs to take a nap and chill the fuck out. What do you mean she's using another culture? That is just a weird way to put it. And it completely blew my mind when she said that my ex language is Chinese. As a person who learned Chinese in the university and I've spent 5 years of my life on it, and then I've lived some of the years in China actually. If the girl spent 4 years learning Chinese willingly and she likes it, then first of all, she's a hero because that shit is hard. And if she moved along in speaking and generally learning it, it is very, very hurtful to lose it because it's such a complicated skill to acquire. And if it's become a part of her personality, then she should definitely not abandon it for her current boyfriend because, I mean, even if it was not Chinese, any other language, she should totally continue learning the language and maybe just drop the unsupportive and hypocritical boyfriend. That's all my take. Okay, let's move on. Am I the asshole for outing my ex as gay to get his mother off my back? Ooh, I feel like there's gonna be a lot to unpack in this. It's a long and sucky story, but my 25 female, soon to be ex, 28 male, is gay and hid that from me. I found out because I caught him cheating, and he as much as admitted that he knew he wasn't attracted to me that way, but he wanted kids and a normal life. I don't care that he's gay, but I will never forgive him for leading me on so he could use me to have kids, so it's over. End of story. That tracks. The problem is that his family are fundamentalist nut jobs, except for a few members, and his mother is the interfering mother-in-law from hell. Not being related to her anymore is another plus to leaving. Oh wow, she must be really getting on her nerves. His family doesn't believe in divorce, so under the guise of picking up some paperwork and other items I had found that were my exes, she cornered me about how I'm being childish and marriage is about commitment, forgiveness, and working through problems, etc. It became apparent that my ex didn't tell his family that he cheated. He told his mom that I was divorcing him because we weren't having sex often enough for me. Oh boy. I tried to be patient and explained that he had cheated and that's why. I wasn't going to go into greater detail because I know how his parents are and it's none of their business. Mother-in-law's advice, I kid you not, was that men are just that way, and if I wanted to have sex more and for him not to stray, that I should make myself more attractive to my husband and be a better wife. This gives me rage chills. I lost the plot completely. It had been a sad and hard day already, and that was the last straw. Here's where I might be the asshole. I told her that the only thing that would make me more attractive to my ex would be a sex change operation, and that I hoped he and his boyfriend adopted her some grandchildren so she could finally shut the hell up about it. Not my finest moment, but she just hit the worst and rawest nerve she could have, and I exploded. It's evidently turned into a huge family drama. He's probably going to be disowned, and my ex called sobbing that I've ruined his life out of spite. So he was just planning to hide all of this till the end of his life? I'm confused. I don't really know how to feel about it. I do feel bad for him that his parents are such awful people and there were just no good outcomes for him. But I also feel like he made his own bed here too. Edit a couple things from comments. First, there is almost no chance of violence. His family are fundies, but not violent ones. They're more of a Mormon shunning type. One of his cousins came out and left the church, and after the initial protests, they all just stopped talking to him and basically treated him as if he were dead until he was ready to repent or whatever. They're passive aggressive, repressed, and weird as all hell, but the chances of anyone physically hurting him are extremely low. He's not financially dependent on them and has a more than decent job, so he can support himself easily if they kick him out. He's known he was gay since before he met me, so this wasn't a new discovery or admission to himself. He has a boyfriend that he's been dating since 6 months before we were married. Oh my god. This whole thing is just why? Why? I went through his computer after catching them in the act and kicking him out and found messenger logs and other evidence going back to before he started dating me. He literally set this up so he could have the nice Mormon family on the surface to keep his family happy. That's it. He never loved me at all. I was just the first girl to express a sustained interest. Well, I am beyond impressed by the story, to be honest with you. It's a complicated one because I don't think that anyone has the actual right to out someone as queer in any case. It's the responsibility of the individual themselves. So here she is, I think, the asshole because she outed him. But the whole context adds a lot of alleviating circumstances because she was driven to the brink of her patience and then she just lost it. From the sound of it, the whole family is just insufferable. And to be attacked by a mother-in-law just when you learned that your whole marriage has been a lie is such a low blow that I kind of get how she got to the point. I can see myself being in that position because I would probably snap too. I'm very bad at lying and I'm very bad at tolerating lies. So for me, this whole thing would be literally maddening. It would drive me nuts. So I'm in no way excusing the fact that she outed him because judging by the edits, a lot of people in the comments also pointed out that it could be putting him in the position of danger, and I get it. That's a very valid point. So yeah, that is a bad thing that she did, but in the whole context, questionable. I have more of an issue with the family and the guy and the fact that he set this whole thing up knowing that she would just be like a piece of furniture in his life. This is like a fucked up adult version of play pretend, and I just cannot fathom being in the position where you realize that your whole marriage has been a fucking lie. I feel so sorry for this woman. That's why I'm having a very hard time even starting being mad at her for outing him, because for me it's like a transgression, but the one where I can see where she's coming from. This is a perfect example of what this whole fucking conservative mindset is giving us. Well, in this case, it's a religion type of issue. At the same time, when you have so much homophobia and when things are so strict, this is what people are driven to, because I also cannot fully blame the man. Being happy or being disowned is hardly a choice, because you would be literally kicked out of your family, of your community, you would be a disgrace, and there's a lot of shame and guilt and fear probably involved in that. So he was sort of put in this position where he didn't have like that much of a choice, so he felt pressure to create this perfect picture of a family. But at the same time, he also had the choice of not marrying at all and just pretending that he, for example, doesn't want to do it. I imagine his family would not be very happy about that too, but it's much better than doing this to a woman who could have spent this whole time with a person who would love her, appreciate her, want her, etc. You know what? I'm just gonna call this one Everybody Sucks Here, but the wife sucks the least. Her assholery just comes from a place where she was just backed into a corner and she saw no way out and she just snapped. Actually, the overall vote on this one was not the asshole. I am glad. If I had to vote just asshole or not asshole, I would also vote not the asshole. Let's move to the next one. Would I be the asshole if I, 23 male, texted my ex, 21 female, to apologize for some immature things I did that I regret? My ex of 4 years and I broke up in September 2022. And at first it was amicable, but then things got a little messy. There were a couple of ways in which I acted immature, mainly after I saw her quickly rebound to another man as I got jealous and possessive. But now that a few months have passed, I've reflected on how I acted and kinda regret it and want to apologize for acting immature and upsetting her in the way that I did. But I don't know if that would be appropriate considering she's in a relationship, and I've also heard that this can be considered hoovering, which is a common tactic that narcissists use to stay in their ex's mind and don't want to do that. Would I be the asshole if I sent a quick text saying, hey, I've reflected on when I did XYZ, and after some time I've realized how immature that was of me and I'm truly sorry. I was just acting out of emotion and not reasoning, and that was childish. I hope you can forgive me. She was the one who ended things, and I first saw her with her new man about a month and a half later and got really jealous and petty and told some of our mutual friends that she left me for the other guy. I really regret it now, and I realize I was childish. Well, if all you did is tell the friends that she left you for the other guy, maybe just tell the friends that you were lying. Answering the question, I think, yeah, you would be the asshole. In this situation, it's just better to move on. It doesn't look like the author of this is very tormented over what he did. So he's just like, yeah, I want to set things straight and just kind of like show that I've grown and that it's not me anymore, and to like apologize, but it has that flair of look at me, I'm better now, be proud of me. So if it's not gonna haunt you to the end of your days, leave the poor girl alone. She doesn't need to know. She doesn't need your apology. And even if she does, time heals all, actually. And if there was nothing super fucking traumatic or dramatic going on, she will probably forget about it quite fast. Don't slide back into her life, especially if she is in a relationship. I have a bit of a personal experience with that because I had a brief fling with a guy who treated me like badly. We parted on bad terms. The level of being a bitch was that he just texted me, I don't think we should talk anymore. I was let's say, not very pleased because basically his words and actions were not lining up, and that was a dick move. So then I kind of like just forgot about it. It was like unpleasant but not heartbreaking. And then the guy out of nowhere texts me probably like a year later, and he was like, hey, I was in a really bad place, I treated you unfairly, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have done that, a blah blah blah. There was this like whole long ass apology, and I was like, okay. I felt nothing. It's just obviously my story, so maybe other people would react differently, but a year later, I don't need your fucking apology. I don't even remember who you is. Good for you that you became less of a dick, but there is no need to let me know about it, because I don't care anymore. Mostly the person who does the apologizing feels better in these cases, and then it makes this person a dick, because not only did you do something wrong, but then you're like bothering the other person to make yourself feel better. So yeah, no, don't do that. Leave people alone. Let's just move on to the next one. Am I the asshole for not having told my best friend how terrible my ex was to me? I'll try to keep it short. I, 20 female, dated my ex, 23 male, starting when I was 17 and he was 20. It was a terrible, emotionally and financially abusive relationship. One of the classics. We had a very messy breakup, and I am now dating my best friend, 22 male, Mark. My other best friend, Josh, 22 male, and I recently got into an argument about my ex, and I'm still not sure who was right. Mark, Josh, my ex, and I, among others, had all been a part of a large friend group that consisted of a bunch of guys who had been friends for various lengths of time, and me would have been friends with the group for about 3 years. Josh had known my ex for about a decade prior to a messy breakup, and I was hesitant to tell him just how awful my ex was to date for a few reasons. I didn't want it to seem like I was just name calling and trying to be mean after a bad breakup. I didn't want to feel like I was putting my friends in the middle of a breakup and asking them to pick a side. I was worried about damaging the relationship between these two friends who had grown up together. Ultimately, when Josh and I got into an argument a few weeks ago and I finally told him some of the awful things that my ex had done and the way he had treated me during the relationship, he felt like he deserved to know if his lifelong friend was a bad guy, and that he wishes he had known what went on sooner, so he would have known enough about the situation earlier to feel like he was making good decisions about who to stand by and support after the breakup. I'm conflicted. I wanted to have told Josh sooner, but I feel like if I had, I would have just seemed like I was attacking my ex's character, especially since after the breakup he was heavily attacking my character to our mutual friends and calling me various names. I think waiting until things settled down to peacefully tell my side of things was better, but maybe I left Josh in the middle of a breakup with only one side of the story and he had no idea how to act. Am I the asshole for not having told him sooner how my ex acted during the relationship? Not at all. Your personal things are personal for a reason, and only you can choose what to do with them. And especially if the other person is being fucking childish and spreading lies or just generally telling people bad things about you, you don't have to participate in this childish contest of who outshits who. Also, the intentions of the author have been very nice in this situation. She didn't want to turn the old friends against each other. So I completely get her point. I don't think she did anything wrong. For me, it's also, I get how the best friend can be upset, because when you're in that position, you can feel like you've been hurting your friend unknowingly, because you feel that maybe you could have made this choice to support the other side if you knew. At the same time, again, it's her primary decision if she should involve anyone in her breakup. That said, I sympathize with her because she just got lucky to have a friend who, upon learning about the abuse, was like, well, okay, I should have supported you, and now I'm upset because I was talking to that dickhead like everything was fine. You see that as a good friend. He is willing to support her to the point where he will change his relationship with the other guy. It's just, for me, I have been in the similar situation where my ex and we were in the same friend group, and when we broke up, things were World War III type of messy. But still, I was kind of holding back the worst things that happened because I did not want to be disappointed in my friends. What I mean by that is that they were very happy to stay in the middle and be like, yeah, sure, you broke up, but we like both of you and we're just gonna keep being friends with you separately. And I sort of wanted it to stay that way until there was a point where I snapped a few years after the breakup. I couldn't stand how people would bring up what they did with him, how they had fun, what he said, and I was like, this is fucking enough. You have to know the worst thing that happened, and the thing was unforgivable. It's like the type of thing people go to prison for. And then my friend looked me in the eye and he was like, this is terrible, but I still like him, he's my friend, so I'm gonna keep being friends with both you and him. The level of disappointment I felt in that moment is unbelievable, to say the least. And it's actually a couple of friends, knowing what he did, they continued being friends with him. To me, this is sort of like perplexing. So yeah, it's very tough, because if you have this one big friend group and if you just keep some things to yourself, you can at least keep the friends to yourself. You know what I mean? In my case, it was like we broke up, and then a few years later, I also heavily changed my opinion of my friends. It's the definition of fuck around and find out. I did. So maybe for this girl, it was the similar type of thought process. I don't think she's an asshole. Fucking terrible exes, especially abusive ones. We should hold those people accountable. And sadly, even in our times, a lot of people are not willing to hold them accountable. They are willing to keep being friends with them and acting as nothing happened. And this is just wonderful and terrifying. Okay, I feel like this got a bit heavy, or it's just me. I got upset. It's a classic trait of mine. I get myself upset for like no fucking reason. Let's move on to something more lighthearted. Am I the asshole for not taking my ex back because he has a poop kink? Okay, before this begins, just some background information. Boyfriend 19 male and I 17 female met back in August 2018 on a Discord server. We started dating in November 2018. He told me he had a poop kink and it grossed me out, but I didn't want to tell him that's why I was breaking up with him, so I told him I was a lesbian. I still have feelings for him, but the poop kink bothers me and makes me sick. He told his parents that I broke his heart and cheated on him, which I didn't. What the fuck is up with men lying to their parents about the reason of the breakup? Can you not invent something that does not blame the other person? Don't tell about the poop kink, but be like, we found that we're not on the same page. Why would you fucking tell them she cheated? Jesus Christ. I didn't want to kink shame him, and since I'm bisexual, I thought it would be easier to say I was lesbian. Fast forward to now, and he knows I'm bisexual and not lesbian. He tells me he loves me and wants to be with me, but I still can't get over the fact that he has a poop kink and don't know how to reject him. That's the only quality about him that I don't like. He's a good guy and treated me well, but I just can't get over this fact. Like, what if we have kids and he gets excited over changing our kids' diapers? I don't know what to do. There's an update, but I will just say my bit before we move into the update. I don't think she is an asshole for not getting back with him because the kink he has makes her uncomfortable. I don't know how she can arrive at that conclusion. Kink shaming is a problem. You shouldn't engage in it, but she's not engaging in it and she's trying to avoid even telling him she's not into it. There's nothing wrong if you just don't share the kink that another person has. And obviously it can be such a big part of their sexual life and experience and just existence in general that you cannot move past it, because if you don't share it, your relationship is not gonna be growing to the fullest. You will never connect on that essential part. So it's absolutely right that you're not taking him back. Like, you would be the asshole if you took him back and then kind of tortured yourself pretending that you're into it. It is not a healthy way to deal with things. I'm sort of upset at how she deals with it because it was easier to say that she was a lesbian than to be honest. I can see how it can be uncomfortable to do so in this case because it's a very touchy subject, but she could have just been very nice about it and told him that it's not that I find it weird or gross or something else. Like, you don't need to be negative about it, you don't need to be toxic about it. You can just be like, I get you have this kink, I am not into it, so I don't think we would be a good fit because we're just not on the same page. And there you go, you just resolved the breakup in a peaceful manner and you didn't even have to lie. It's just a matter of presentation of information. I am a big believer that any type of situation can be handled really well if you just present the information the right way and if you are ready to talk, to deal with things, and you are doing your best not to be mean or toxic. There's that. Let's go into the update now. I told him I didn't want to be with him this morning once again and explained it was because of a poop kink. He told me he was maturing and barely had the kink anymore, but still has it a little. He also asked if he didn't have the kink if I would date him. I've lost all feelings for him a long time ago. He is not my type anymore. I want a guy that will treat me better and have more compatibility with. He told me he would act like he didn't have the kink, but I just don't find him attractive anymore. He's a good friend to play video games with sometimes, but he is a bum and gross. Okay, this escalated quickly. He keeps trying to talk romantically to me. P.S. I'm pretty sure he already has a girlfriend but wants me as his side piece, and I obviously don't want that. I am friends with his little sister B, 16, and tempted to tell her everything that he's been putting me through. Don't tell the sister. Do not traumatize a 16-year-old because you feel like venting about her brother. It's completely unnecessary. It's not gonna get you anywhere. It doesn't benefit you, it doesn't benefit anyone, in fact. This would be like a very spiteful thing to do, and you would hurt another person in the process of it because you will probably ruin her brother forever in her eyes, so don't. But this update makes it clear that poop kink is not the biggest problem in here, so just don't take him back. And if he's insisting and keeps talking romantically to you, he obviously is not mature enough to break up amicably and be friends. You know, the fact that he says he's gonna act like he doesn't have a kink also kind of outs him as a complete fucking child, so maybe just cut all the contact because you will definitely not be able to be friends with this person the way you want to. He's not getting the hint, and especially if he has like another girlfriend and he just wants, in my language we have the saying of like sit on the two chairs at the same time. If he wants to do that, don't participate in that. Just leave, girl. Have your peace of mind. Not the asshole. Moving on. Am I the asshole because it got quiet? I purchased tickets to a concert for my partner and I, as he absolutely loves the artist. It was Friday night and was an incredible show. He upgraded our tickets to VIP and the whole show was wonderful. During the show, he said he would be the designated driver. I had 4 to 5 hard ciders on an empty stomach. This detail is relevant. After the show, we drove to one of our favorite places to eat. It's mostly takeout with a small counter to sit. Very casual. Towards the end of our meal, we somehow got talking about our divorces, and I had asked him why it took so long to end his. He said he had a lot of stuff to figure out, but in the end, he never moved to file. She did. They had a kid, a mortgage, and 10 years of what he's told me misery. He said I was lucky that mine was so easy. I owned my house before meeting my ex, and I never put his name on it. We purchased a truck together. I said it wasn't easy as my ex was verbally and emotionally abusive and a gaslighting narcissist. I went to bed many of nights wondering if he was going to kill me in my sleep. Over the years, I had asked him to leave for a night or two because we were fighting and he always refused, saying that he isn't going anywhere. Our last big fight, he, unknowing to me, I found out later the next afternoon when I texted him to tell him something, packed a bag and told me he was going to stay with a friend for a bit until we work it out. At that point, I knew that I would never let him back in. He left a ton of his stuff and literally tons of trash behind that my partner and I had to pay to have removed. I said to my partner that my divorce wasn't easy. I clammed up and got quiet and my mood tanked. We got in the car and started to drive home, and he asked me what was wrong. I said nothing as I was still processing my feelings and I also was drunk. He got pissy, and at that point he said to me that obviously I might be regretting my divorce if this is my reaction to the conversation. I thought that was a really hurtful thing to say, as I have made it clear to him in the time we've been together that while I wish I never met my ex, it brought me to where I am today. We had a bit of an argument on the way back, and I said how the comment really hurt me and I felt like my feelings were being dismissed. He said that he's not putting up with emotional bullshit and that it was inappropriate behavior for me to act like that after a wonderful night. I don't quite understand how being quiet and trying to process my feelings was being overly emotional or inappropriate behavior. So now it's Sunday afternoon and he has barely spoken to me since Friday night. I asked him yesterday about it and he again kept saying that he is not putting up with emotional bullshit. I asked him today if he has a time frame of when we can start talking again, and he wants me to take responsibility in that I ruined the night because of my behavior. Am I the asshole here? Edit. He knew all about my marriage and how I feared for my life. He slept in his kid's room last night and the silent treatment is still ongoing. What the fuck am I doing? Thank you all for your insight and thoughts. I appreciate it all. Leave him. He also sounds abusive. I'm sorry, girl. The faster you catch up, the better. With men like these, the ones that are not dealing with emotional bullshit, with the ones that act like little babies when things inconvenience them, when they don't get the reaction they want, you just are wasting your time, I think. Because, yeah, you can hope they will change, and if given enough motivation, they might change a little bit or for a short while, but in the long run, the same issues will keep resurfacing. There are, different shades of abusers, different types of abusive behavior. It sounds like your ex was just so much worse that you are not paying that much attention to the behavior of this one, but this one also needs to become your ex, because to throw a fit, to sleep in the kids' room and give you silent treatment because you just did not like what he said and you wanted to keep quiet for a bit and he refused to give you space, is very toxic. You are not the asshole. Everyone should have their space and their chance to deal with things the way they find comfortable. I'm not even gonna say anything else because this dude just genuinely sounds unbearable, even from such a short story. Like, I would not be able to put up with that. No thanks. I've had my fair share of narcissistic behavior, more than I can deal with in my lifetime. So my advice always with that is just to run. This whole silent treatment thing is kindergartner behavior. I despise it. I don't think it's a good way of dealing with conflict. It's just a way of punishment and torture of the other partner. And if a person is willing to hurt you like this, think about the other ways this person might want to hurt you. Free yourself from the insanity. That's all the stories I have for you today, guys. Let me know what you thought about those and maybe your fun experiences with exes. If you're still here, thank you so much. I'll see you probably soon with another video. Bye.